We think of technology as our friend, right? It helps us out, it keeps us entertained, connects us to the whole world. But what happens when the very tech we invite into our homes, well, when it turns on us? That's exactly what we're digging into today.
I mean, really think about that for a second. It's a pretty unsettling thought, isn't it? We trust these devices. We plug them in, we turn them on, and we just assume they're safe. But the answer to that question is a big fat yes. They absolutely can.
And what we're going to do here is look at 5 products that went, let's just say, horribly wrong. We're going to count them down from the surprisingly painful all the way to the tragically lethal. Okay, let's kick this off. We're starting our countdown with a few products that failed in some pretty spectacular and painful ways. Coming in at number 5, we've got a piece of tech that was supposed to bring you nothing but, warmth and comfort.
So what could that be? Just imagine snuggling into bed on a really cold night. You wrap yourself in what you think is this cozy cocoon, only to have it, well, bite back.
We are talking about the very first electric blankets. And you gotta hear this design. They had electrical heating wires woven right into the fabric. The problem was just horrifyingly simple. If those wires happened to shift around and touch your skin, they would actually burn you. Yeah, not exactly the relaxing night's sleep they were advertising.
All right, let's move on to our number 4 spot. The danger here kind of ramps up. We're going from a burn to a jolt.
This one is just perfectly ironic. You buy a camera to capture all your happy memories, but the device itself ends up creating a very unhappy and pretty shocking one of its own.
So, the product in question was the Olympus VG170 camera. The design was so bad that when you held it to take a picture, your fingers could literally touch the camera's internal circuits. And the result? You'd get a nasty little electric zap. It definitely made for an electrifying photo session, but for all the wrong reasons.
Okay, look, getting zapped by your camera is obviously a huge design fail. It's bad, it never should have made it to the store shelf. But as startling as that is,
I think we can all agree that a full-blown fire starting in your kitchen is a whole lot worse. And that brings us to the next level of danger on our list.
Coming in at number 3, we've got a super common kitchen appliance that, well, it had a little habit of spontaneously bursting into flames.
deep fat fryers. Now, the danger here wasn't really the concept. It was all in the execution. See, to cut costs, a lot of these fryers were made in these super low-cost factories where quality control was, let's just say, not a top priority. The heating elements were so poorly made that they could just, poof, burst into flames.
All right, for our number 2 spot, we're going to move away from the obvious danger of fire to something, honestly, a lot more sinister. This is the story of a very hazardous headset. The things we've seen so far, burns, shocks, fires, they're all things you can see and react to. But what about a threat that is completely, totally invisible?
The Turtle Beach Stealth Gaming Headset. Gamers who bought this thing pretty quickly realized something was very, very wrong. Turns out the headsets were contaminated with mold. And this just perfectly illustrates a terrifying new kind of tech danger. The spores from that mold posed a serious respiratory health risk to anybody wearing them. You're literally breathing in danger for hours at a time.
And that, my friends, brings us to our number 1 spot, the most dangerous tech product of them all. We've seen burns, we've seen shocks, we've seen fires, and we've seen hidden health risks. So, what could possibly top all of that?
No, really, think about it. What kind of failure, what kind of product could be more consistently and devastatingly dangerous than everything we've talked about so far?
The answer is a product that puts you in this position of power and speed, but it's also fundamentally, catastrophically difficult to control. A product where one tiny little mistake could lead to absolutely devastating consequences.
The number 1 most dangerous tech product is the Segway. It promised to completely revolutionize how we get around, but it was notoriously hard to control. And just look at this. The consequences were brutal. People would fall backwards and break their spines. They'd fall forwards and smash their skulls. The human body just isn't built to fall from that kind of moving platform.
And if you need any more proof, get this. In the most horrifying twist of irony you could possibly imagine, the man who owned the Segway company
He died after driving one of them off a cliff. There is simply no clearer, more tragic indictment of a product's danger than that.
So when we look back at this whole list of lethal technology, from electric blankets to Segways, you start to see a really clear pattern of failure emerge.
You can pretty much trace every single one of these failures back to one of three things. Sometimes it's a major flaw in the basic design, like with the blankets or the Segway. Other times it's a shortcut taken in manufacturing just to save a few bucks, like with the fryers. And sometimes it's a completely unforeseen consequence, like mold growing inside a headset. Any one of these can turn a helpful product into a really hazardous one.
And that leaves us with one final, really crucial question. You know, these products we talked about, they came from a relatively simple era of technology. But as our tech gets exponentially smarter and way more complex, how do we make sure we aren't accidentally creating new, more sophisticated dangers? How do we avoid the hazardous tech of tomorrow? It's definitely something to think about.